But we go in and then we said, how much do you think the house is worth? Now, Taylor's an agent, I'm an agent, we know, but we just want to get their take. And they're like, yeah, I think you could probably get $1 million for it. And I turned to Taylor and I went, if somebody buys this house for $1 million, they are not very intelligent. In fact, I told her, I don't know that I could sell it to somebody for $1 million. I probably would not list it for $1 million. I would have a hard time doing that. This house is not worth $1 million. That is a sign we are a little skewed. So I say that because what you need to understand is if homes appreciate slowly, if at all, you're going to be going into a market where you list a home and it sits for a couple weeks. And you got to be very good at things like pricing property and these kinds of things. You can't, and I want you to write this down. You want to sell for the market you're in, not the market you want. You sell for the market that you're in, not the market you want. One of the fastest ways to ruin your career is to go against the grain. Like people that had a bunch of buyers 8 months ago were struggling. I wrote 13. I literally had some coaching clients write 13 offers over the weekend, and none of them got accepted. Answer: the best way to get your offer accepted is to be the listing agent. That's the best way. Unless you argue with yourself and you start negotiating with yourself, which some of you do. When the alarm clock goes off, well, maybe I can just sleep in 5 more minutes. Maybe I can. So the fastest way is to go against the rhythm of the business or to think that you need something in order to take action. You don't. Those two are backwards, okay? So as we move into the planning of what we're doing, there's 10 things I want to go over to talk to you about this market that I think we're moving into. I'm saying recession, but the R word has been very inflamed. It's not that big of a deal. I literally got into real estate in full-time. I was part-time when I was playing baseball, but full-time, 2006. It was like basically if you looked at a diagram and said, let me ask you something, when's the worst time to get into real estate? And somebody was like, right there. I was like, cool, that's when I'm gonna get in. That was brutal. When I talk about like it being brutal, every 4 doors I was knocking on, somebody was foreclosing. And when you knock on a door and creditors have been calling and knocking, and then you're an agent that knocks and they think that you're coming to throw them in jail or you're coming because you're in a suit, and I wasn't very smart. I was like, I'm gonna show up in a suit. That's a good idea, dude. Why don't you make it a black suit with some black sunglasses and show up, like the CIA? That's a good idea. I didn't know, I was young and stupid. So I would knock. I had guns pulled on me. I had people set their dogs off on me. I had people yell at me. Like it was crazy. It was insane. So what we're going into, I don't think we're going to experience that. I just don't. I don't think, in fact, if there's a crash, I think it's the best thing that you and I could hope for. One is it brings us back to normalcy, because right now your buyers can't afford to buy houses. It's insane how much they are. It's absolutely crazy. In fact, what's even worse, you even saw a flux of people moving out of California because they were like, well, I could go buy 2 houses in Arizona. Not anymore, you can't. You know why? Everybody fled. And now the rest of the country prices are going up. I'm mind blown. I know pretty much all the markets because I have coaching clients in every market. And I'm watching them and I'm like, oh my God, that house in Austin is as expensive as Beverly Hills. It's insane. So now they can't even move there. So prices are really high. So what we should be hoping for is somebody do something, because the craziest thing is happening right now. Affordability is down through the floor, but prices are still stuck here. Right? Now, I think the prices are going to go down, which is a good thing for us, because if prices are going down, you're selling houses. If prices are going up, you're selling houses. So the big thing is this. The market is the market. The only thing that would get you in trouble with the market is to start telling yourself a story that isn't actual or practical, like, oh my God, I can't grow my business. Is that true? Are other people growing their business? What do you think? Yes, of course they are. They're taking listings, and I'm going to show you exactly what they're doing. I'm going to show you later. But the first thing is this, is to understand and embrace the law of equilibrium, meaning we have agents getting out by the thousands every single day right now, which is a good thing for us, because agents who don't quit don't lose. If you just stay, the transaction count and agent count will equal out, and your per person productivity will go up. And if you do some of the things that I'm going to talk about today and tomorrow's the most important day on day 2. If you do some of the things I'm telling you, you'll do more business in the market that we're going into, because there'll be more of a need to serve. The reason I'm doing this event in December outside of SoCal is because there's a need to serve. When I spoke with my coaching clients up here, they're like, people up here are freaking out. Like, they're like freaking out. Like it's a tough market, and I'm like, well, putting on my cape. I'm going to go out there and go do my thing. And then I got hit with the bill to run this event, and I was like, yeek! Oh, well, we're in it now. Find a way. And so I'm out here doing this with you, but the reason I'm committed to doing that, I'm committed to helping more because there's more of a need. That's when your buyers and sellers need you more, is when the market gets hard. They don't, at least they don't think they need you when things are good. They need you in times like this, okay? So embrace that. Number 2, this is a big one. Get your facts, feelings, and stories straight. Stop combining feelings and stories and pretending like they're facts. Get your facts, feelings, and stories right. You can build a business on facts. You can't build it on feelings and stories. Get your facts, feelings, and stories right. Number 3, everything, my friend, is about motivation. Everything. And what I mean by that is not your motivation, but whose? Yeah, your clients. You are a professional motivation finder. That's your job. Your job is to go into the marketplace and scan for motivation. Motivated. Now, and I'll tell you right now, as somebody who coaches real estate agents for a living, it is mind-boggling how many people will be like, do you know how to sell? Oh, yeah, I'm killer. How much you make last year? $35,000. You don't know how to sell. Did you want to make 35? No. Well, the goal is 350. Then you don't know how to sell. But there seems to be this ego inside of our economy, inside of our industry that's like, I know how to sell. But then I'll go to hear somebody sell, and they'll just tell. Let me tell you why I'm amazing. I don't know if I'm kind of a big deal around here. Let me tell you why my company's important. Let me tell you why we're amazing. Tell. And then they can't figure out why they didn't get sales. If you don't have the ability to scan the marketplace for motivation, that is dramatically going to pull your income down. And there's basically 6 questions for a seller, 6 questions for a buyer, that every human being that you talk to, whether you're at a party, whether you're calling somebody, whether you're at an open house, you need to know them off the top of your head. We'll talk about them tomorrow, but you should never not be qualifying. Remember my grandma I told you about, 100 years old? Then I'm like, yeah, across the finish line. She was notorious. My grandfather owned 2 offices in Covina, and she was notorious. My grandfather would tell me stories. He'd be like, Matilda goes out to happy hour, comes back with 2 listings. And she would. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but the listing contract used to be 1 sheet, press hard, multiple copies, and she would go out to happy hour, and she would get contracts signed at the bar and be like, we've got 2 listings. What the hell were you doing watching TV? And it's like, well, why can she do that? Why can she go have drinks and take you from neutral to listing contract signed? She was lethal at qualifying for motivation. So good at it. She knew how to understand and trigger human motivation. She knew how to do it really, really well. My father, very good at it too. My mother, not so much. My mom just kind of does her thing. But if you don't know how to do that, you're stepping over dollars. You're literally just walking by commissions. I promise you, if I can just get you to do that, if I can just get you to say, I'm just looking for motivation all the time, because that's the only thing that matters. Somebody might say, well, it's circumstances. Some people say that the only 2 things that matter in real estate are price and motivation. I disagree. The only thing that matters is motivation, because when the motivation's right, the price is right accordingly. When the motivation is not right, the price is not right. Were there people who paid 25, 30% over and gave stupid conditions? Waived appraisal contingencies. I'm like, are you out of your mind? You're going to waive contingencies and pay 25% over? Somebody tackle them. But their motivation is so high that it exceeds market conditions. That's who you're looking for. And it's okay if they're not motivated, but you need to understand that I'm a professional motivation finder. Everybody say that. 1, 2, 3. I'm a professional motivation finder. Say it one more time. 1, 2, 3. I'm a professional motivation finder. That's what you do. You look for need. You look for motivation, because there will always be motivation that exceeds market conditions. There are some people who are so miserable in their house that they will give it away for free and buy at high interest rates. There are some people who won't. Right? There's some people that their motivation does not exceed market conditions, but there will always be sales. And if you know how to find those people, like, what would it be like if you could just fly over the area that you work in a helicopter, and if orange smoke just came out of the chimney of motivated people, and you were like, just go down and talk to that person? Like, do you know how to do that with your marketing? Do you know how to do that with your linguistics and your sales skills? If you don't, that's what day 2 is about, is being able to find those things. But you need to understand that market doesn't matter. Motivation does. People buy and sell in any market, okay? Number 4, this is what I just talked about earlier, be stronger on price and price ahead of the market. Price ahead of the market. There's a lot of people, a lot of agents that are instructing their buyers, both on social media and in person, to say, go for the listing price, and then automatically take 15% off and make that offer because the market's going to drop 15, 20%, and you want to be in a good position to do that. So that's what they're being instructed to do. And you might say, well, okay, what if we just lower it? What if we just did a lower price? Cool, they're going to take 15% off of that. So you just need to manage expectations, right? You need to manage expectations. Is it better to tell somebody, hey, you're going to probably net 675 and they net 500? Or is it better to say, you're probably going to net 550 and they net 575? Create expectations, right? And you do that on the listing presentation. You do that by triggering motivation, understanding motivation, and really getting able to walk through those things. In fact, I'm going to show you how to convert people's mindset on day 2. Like, how do you speak to them and convert their mindset so that they see it a different way? Because I told you that earlier, right? I told you when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Well, what if you could use your language to get other people to see things differently? Because when they change the way they look at things, things change. In one context, it makes no sense to sell this house. In another context, it makes a lot of sense, right? So, but when it comes down to strategic, you really have to get good at pricing and pricing ahead of the market. And the reason I say that is there's a big fear around price reductions. I have coaching clients who are people on their team, and the team leaders are getting really annoyed because they're like, they won't call the seller and have the conversation. Like, you gotta have those conversations. You have to be strong enough to talk to them. In fact, one of the scripts that I use, one of the 3 that I recommend, in fact, I'll email all these scripts to you after this event, is one of the scripts is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when I listed your home, I made a big mistake. Can I explain? Yeah. I let you sell me on the price, and I wasn't strong enough on price in the beginning. And so at this point, we're in one of 3 scenarios, which I told you. Number 1, we can lower the price today by 5, 10%. Number 2, we can refer it to another agent. Or number 3, I got to give you the listing back. Which one do you want to do? I know it's a really tough call, but remember, I work for you. Which one do you want to do? 1, 2, or 3? And that is a confrontational, be unattached conversation. Basically saying, either we drop the price or I don't want you as a client. And I want to give you to somebody else. Do you have the courage to say that? Some of us need to develop that courage. But pricing is really critical because you need to understand that the longer that your sign for sale is in the ground, the worse you look. If that for sale sign has been there for 3 or 4 months, you look like you can't sell stuff. One of the things that I recommend is people take down their sign after a certain amount of time. Take it down. It's for sale, but take that sign down because it does not look good. And so you need to be able to have the conversation. They hired you to get the home sold. And if they won't drop the price and you've made a good case, then they're probably not motivated because when motivation is high with sellers, price is low. When motivation is low, price is high. In which case you don't have a seller anyway, so you might as well refer the listing to somebody else. And you can even say that, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I want you to understand. I'm going to refer you to somebody who holds houses and shows them. I sell them. And so if you're not going to sell it, then I'm going to refer to somebody else who's like going to show it, who lists property, okay? Number 5, overcome buyer reluctance. Overcome buyer reluctance. And just overcome the reluctance, right? That's easy enough. Well, how do I do that? We're going to talk a lot about that on day 2, but it's your job to do that. It's your job to show them that there's no bad time to buy real estate. You don't wait to buy real estate, you buy real estate and wait. And so how do you do that? You do that through marketing, you do that through conversations, you do that through getting them to see stuff differently. One of my biggest regrets in my life is not buying in a market that I should have bought in. And by the way, and somebody might say that, well, what if prices are going to crash? Okay, what if they do? What if they don't? What if they went up from here more? And now the $600,000 house you want, you can't afford that either. Now you afford a $450,000 house. What if it gets to a point where all the companies buy houses and then you have no choice but to rent? Will you at that point wished that this happened? Right, that's called the Dickens pattern. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. Number 6, expand the options and get creative. Get creative at closing these deals. Make sure that you have a good staff with good lenders who can get creative. Make sure that you are able to get creative yourself and put deals together. Because if you've got two motivated parties, very rarely can you not work things out. You know who actually gets in the way most of the time? You know who actually gets in the way most of the time? The agent. I don't know that it's you, right? He said us. I don't know if that's you, but have you ever been in a transaction with somebody like that? You're like, dude, are you trying to kill the deal? Like, you seem absolutely committed to them not buying this house. Is that what they want, right? Like, so as long as you have motivation on both sides, get creative, figure out a way to make this work. And by the way, that does not mean giving up your commission. Well, why don't you chip on the deal? Okay, do I get part equity in the house? No problem. No problem. I will give up my commission. I want 10% of the equity when it sells later. Let's sign a contract. That would be a cool deal, wouldn't it? Some of you going about this wrong. Look, she's like, well, I'm going to write that down. That's a good idea. I'm going to write it down. Now I sell 50 houses over the next 2 years. I got 10% equity in all these. When they go to sell, this is like a life insurance deal. This is nice. Master the recipe for success in real estate. The recipe for success is what I had talked about earlier. Make sure that you align with the market that you're in rather than going, well, this is the way that I've always done it. If you're still holding on to the X market that we're in, you can't effectively sell real estate. We got to get you to a place where you accept the facts of the marketplace. For instance, if somebody wants to do 20 deals a year and they do 6, is that bad? Is that good? Neither. It's just the facts. Anything after that is a label. I'm not asking you to label it. I'm not asking you to judge it. I'm asking you to know what the facts are, because when you know what the facts are, but you're not triggered or emotional by it, you become very powerful. You become very powerful. In fact, if you want to become a more powerful person, there's 2 things you could do. Number 1 is to get real, because I realized that the person who gets real the fastest in a scenario is usually the most powerful person. They usually hold all the cards. And the second one is to have no ability to be triggered. And I said this to a coaching client. There's a guy that I coach on Wall Street. He makes millions of dollars, and he said, he kept getting triggered. And I said, well, what's going on inside you that's causing you to get triggered? No, you don't understand, coach. It's this person. It's this boss. It's him. I'm like, no, what's going on inside you? And then I told him 2 things. I said, you have to understand that when there's no enemy within, the enemy without can do no harm. I said, and you can't get triggered if the gun's not loaded. Pull the trigger on a loaded gun, boom, emotions go flying. But pull the trigger on a gun with no ammo, and you get click, 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 click. So you're going boom, which means you're loaded with emotions or things that you can't handle or stuff you haven't resolved. And the people who have the most power are the people that just take the buttons off the table. Especially, you know who's a really good teacher of this? You know who's a really good teacher? Your spouse. Nobody can push my buttons like Taylor, man. No, she knows. She knows the buttons. She's like, oh, having a good day, huh? Boop. And I have to get really good at going, there's no button there. There's no button. And there are times where I go for months at a time where there's no button there. You go to push it, there's no button. There's times when she has no buttons on the table, which is a really good place, right? So the person who has no buttons on the table is in a really good position. The question is, how do you unload the gun? How do you make it so that you're not triggered? And the answer is this: you become unattached. You become attached to 2 things: outcome and opinion of other people. In fact, for those of you, when we talk about day 2 about video marketing and stuff like that, a lot of you are scared to do video because you're just attached to the opinion of other people. You're so attached, you're addicted to it. Where if you can let go of the attachment to other people, you become unmesswithable. And that person is powerful. That person can see clearly. That person has awareness. That person gets into the zone when they're untriggerable. When you're somebody who's in full, complete acceptance of all people, all things, and all scenarios, including yourself, you become limitlessly powerful. You just have no limit. And that's a thing to get to. You really want to get to a place where you are unattached to the opinion or the outcomes of other people. Especially in this market, because are you going to go on listing presentations, take listings, and they not sell? Yes or no? Yes or no? You're going to take listings that don't sell. Are you going to have buyers that fall off the map? Yes or no? Are disappointing things going to happen? Yes or no? They're going to happen. But you got to be somebody who's just like, oh, perfect. Moving on to the next one. And the longer you can stay in that spot, the more powerful you're going to be. Because what is the opposite of acceptance? Yeah, rejection or resistance. In fact, this is a really good thing for us to do. This wasn't really in the camp, but it is a coaching framework that I want to share with you. So consider this spectrum here. Okay, rip this sheet of paper. All right. On one end of the spectrum, you have resistance. The other end, you've got desire. Okay? And typically, this is where everybody's living. Bing, 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 bing. In fact, the pendulum swings both ways. Desire, resistance. Desire, resistance. Now, I want you to think of something and just imagine like something that annoys you, bugs you, that kind of thing. What if you wanted it? What if you started telling yourself, I love it, bring it on, I dig it. Oh my God, crappy market. Oh, I can't wait. We're all going out of business. This is gonna be awesome. Hate this job. And Taylor came to me, she's like, oh my God, what if Putin nukes us? I'm like, oh, that would be sweet. I wonder if he dropped it right on our house. That'd be awesome. Should we send him like an email that says, hey bro, here's our house. X marks the spot. That's the spot you want to drop it. She's like, why would you do that? I'm like, because it would be over in a flash. We wouldn't know anything about it, but it'd be really cool. We'd see a big bang and be like, wow, that was awesome. And we'd be out. Now, is that crazy? Yes, that's crazy. But what's the alternative? To get mad or to get scared? Like, what's the alternative to that, right? Whether I desire it or resist it, both of them, what you'll discover is desiring things leads you to the same spot. Because to desire it creates an attachment. To resist it creates an attachment, and both of these lead to suffering. Both of them lead to suffering, where you don't feel good, and now that radiates to the outside, and now you're just not consistent, you're in your room, you're not feeling very good. The place to live, if you want ultimate power in your business, is to live in a place called neutrality. You're neutral. You're just totally cool with it. You don't react by it. And consider this, the best real estate agents in this industry are not emotional in their business. In fact, any emotion in your business is a sign of business immaturity. Because typically the things that bug you, like even the things that I'm saying, I see some of your faces, you're like, that's stupid. That is the exact rock that you should be looking under. Why does that bug you so much? Well, because it's you. I assure you 100% it's not me. I'm just sitting up here saying words. And things are just coming out. And then you're taking it a certain way. It might not even be the way I meant it, which we'll talk about tomorrow. But ultimately, that which you think you need will control you. It'll dominate you. That which you resist will keep going because it's actually you that's resisting it. And what I want you to do is just kind of put down the boxing gloves and just be more open to it, because what you accept, you can transform. In fact, tomorrow, what we're going to talk about, if you want to be highly influential, resisting has no influential value. None. Arguing has no influential value. What has influential value is to align with and transform. That will work way, way better. And so what I want you to get is, like, if you are in desire, if you're attached. In fact, when you go on my website, there's a tab called results. And in those, it's basically all the coaching clients who have reached $100,000 GCI a month in their business. And I interview them. What was the change for you? What was the change for you? What was the change for you? And a common theme you'll hear is that whole thing about unattachment changed my life. Dory Baker's one of them. That was the second thing. The first thing that changed her life was structure. The second thing that changed her life was her mindset. She just became unattached. Dory used to be somebody who had to look perfect. She was very controlling. She was very mean. She was very direct. And people would be like, God, Dory is such a... And I have people in her office come up to me and go, what did you do to Dory? Because Dory walks into the camp now and she's like, hey, everybody, oh my God. She showed up in like almost her PJs at the last camp. I'm like, Dory, like this is not a meditation retreat. And she was like, hey, coach, I love you. And she's just so easygoing. And people are like, what did you do to Dory? Like she just is so helpful and pleasant to be around and amazing and all these things. I didn't do anything. She just got unattached. And she went through some massive breakdowns while growing her business and handled them like a champion because she was just so unattached. What you attach to will ruin your life. It's really tough. So if you can become unattached, it's easier to handle this market and it's easier to align with the business and the consumer that you're in. Some of you really resist social media. Okay, but it ain't going anywhere. Last time I checked, I think 9 billion people have Facebook, and there's only 8 billion people on the planet, which is really weird. Because our dogs have them too. We created an account that we love it so much. We're like, oh, my dog's got an account. My kid's got an account. Like, it's crazy, right? So don't resist it. Number 8, bulletproof your transactions. Bulletproof your transactions. So it's interesting how when agents new get into the business, they try to generate leads. And then they're like, I can't generate leads. And then they finally found leads, but they can't get appointments. And then they finally get appointments, but they're like, but I can't get contracts done. I can't get people to write offers or listing contracts. And then they finally learn how to do that, and then they get them into escrow, but they keep falling out. And they're like, why are they falling out? And then a seasoned agent like yourself goes, maybe because of the 17 red flags before you went into escrow. I remember my first listing. I got a floor call. You guys remember those? Floor calls, when we used to have those? I got a floor call. It was on May Way with Eddie and Myrna. And I go over there. I had been practicing my presentation, did my presentation, was doing my thing, and they were just a yes on everything. I'm like, this is easy. You see how powerful I am? I come in, I go, no, that's the price. And they're like, you're right. I'm like, yeah, see? That's what's up. And I get the contract signed, and we get into escrow, and Lisa from Escrow Advantage calls me. She said, David, are you the agent on May Way? I said, psh, psh. Yes, I am. She said, are you aware that there's like 10 liens on the property, the husband and wife are getting divorced, and there's a bankruptcy filed? Are you sure you have the right listing? And I had no idea. Like I just had no idea. And now I will say, and it wasn't because of me, it was because of my team, my lender, my escrow officers, all them. We got the deal closed, and I ended up doing a marketing campaign that said, against all odds, if we can sell theirs, we can sell yours. But that could have easily fell out because I was new, I was naive, I was stupid, and my dad was like, you're such a jackass, because my family's all real estate agents. They're like, you're such an idiot, like you're so desperate for a listing. Look, Carol, he took a listing. And everybody started making fun of me. It's not really a listing, all that kind of stuff. But if you don't look for those red flags, then you're not going to be able to bulletproof your transaction. So you got to make sure you qualify. You got to make sure you have the tough conversations. Have the tough conversations, have the tough conversations, have the tough conversations. That's the way you get there. And number 9 is to understand that a shift is a gift. It's a gift. If we kept going with prices going up, you're not going to have anybody to help buy and sell houses because nobody's going to be able to afford them. And then the market will be insane at that point. So we don't want to be at that position, okay? Number 10, get clear on what type of business you're going to run. And here is where we get into the story about Randy and his 110 deals and not making much.